Welcome to Here Where You Belong, your go-to podcast for exploring belonging, with your host and belonging expert, Dea Irby. We are thrilled to have you join us. Together, we'll dive into the depths of what it means for each of us to find our own place in the world, whether it's within our communities, our relationships, or within ourselves. Today's episode is meant to inspire, uplift, and remind you that no matter where you are or where you're headed, you have a place where you truly belong. So, grab a cozy spot and settle in. Welcome to Here Where You Belong.
Hello, awesome belongers. Welcome home to Here Where You Belong podcast. Today, I am so excited to introduce you to someone who discovered that true belonging isn't about where you are, it's about who you are. I'm Dea, your host, and our guest today is Andy Dietrich. Welcome, Andy.
Thank you, Dea. Thank you for having me.
So glad to have you here. Well, here's a bit more about our guest. Andy is the author of Play Stupid Games, Win Stupid Prizes. That is going to be a conversation. His book is a collection of short stories, each one filled with life lessons, humor, and honesty. Andy is a first-generation immigrant and U.S. veteran. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Who worked hard for every accomplishment he's achieved. And he carries a perspective that makes belonging possible wherever he goes. You're going to love his wisdom, wit, and the way he makes us laugh while making us think. Get ready to be inspired and blessed. Andy, did I leave out anything, or do you have anything to add?
That was a big long rap sheet. I'm gonna hope to, you put the post pretty high for me, so I'm gonna see if I can crawl my way up to it and then not disappoint you or your audience. So I think we're in good hands here.
Yeah, we set the expectations
Just a little high, but okay,
Just a
we'll
little
take it.
high.
A little challenge for
Okay.
today.
Well, as you know, this podcast is about belonging, and I want to hear your story of belonging. Writing your book, or being an immigrant, or being in the military, what branch, whatever. Let's hear it. Go for it.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. So to give you my quick elevator pitch, my paragraph of who and what I am, as you were saying, my name is Andy Dietrich. I was born in Berlin, Germany, lived in Germany till I was about 14 years old. Then my mother and I moved to Alaska, of all places. There's a fun little side story that goes into that as well. We can talk about that a little bit later. I did my high school years up in Fairbanks, and dealing with -40, changes you a little bit. There are some stories to go along with that as well. Then I joined up, enlisted in the U.S. Marine Corps, and I was stationed down in Camp Pendleton for about 4 years. Got out in 2004, moved to Las Vegas, and I've been living here ever since, and just been living my life, gathering my experiences, going on my little adventures, and along the way, I wrote a book. So that's me in a
You have
nutshell.
lived in just about every weather condition.
Yeah, I will say
Freezing Alaska,
Yep.
hot Las Vegas,
Yep.
and who knows what the weather's going to be at Camp Pendleton.
Mhm.
Awesome. Well, tell us how you know that you are, what's your story of belonging? Like, did you join the Marines to find a place to belong, or what prompted you for that?
Yeah, I think as a young adult, I think men more than women. I think men are looking for a belonging of sort, right? Kind of like the coming of age story, right? I believe that the military definitely has that. Maybe not, it doesn't pull you in with that very actively, but I think young men feel that draw to belong to something, right? Some sort of cause, some sort of movement, some sort of idea. That was definitely part of my decision making. Also, part was to just get out of Fairbanks because there just wasn't a whole lot for me to do. I just didn't find it with a whole lot of opportunity. I'm sure it was there. I just didn't see it, and I felt like I need to get out of there. And then when I moved to Vegas, I joined a fraternity, probably for the same kind of reasons, right? I think I was still yearning for that sense of belonging. Like I said, my mother and I moved to Alaska. It was just me and her up there. And once I left, it was just me, kind of just strolling around the southwest area of the southwestern states of the U.S., and just myself, and I trying to find a group, a tribe. So that was all part of it. So to your question directly, I think belonging is something that maybe subconsciously I yearned for more than consciously, and then I sought out those opportunities, right? Joined the military, joined a fraternity, made a I don't know, just you build your circle of friends, and you get your inner circle of good buddies that you can always rely on. So I think it comes down to belonging is what you make of it, and you take everything with you. And if you want to set up shop somewhere new, that's fine, as long as you take what you've learned with you and make good decisions. Maybe make some bad decisions too, as long as you learn from them, right? Life is about learning from your decisions, bad or otherwise. Yeah, it's wherever you go. I think there's value in that scene when they plant that flag on the moon, and they're like, hey, this is now where we are. That's amazing. We planted a flag on the moon. How amazing is that? And that's where they belong for that time. And it just blows my mind that we were able to do something like that.
Absolutely. Do you have a favorite story from your book? And wait, first,
Yeah.
how'd you come up with the name? Is that
Yeah.
the name of one of the stories in it?
Well, I think the name, the title, "Play Stupid Games, Win Stupid Prizes," embodies kind of my life's adventures, right? My mishaps, my questionable decision making, my unsavory moments, right? Most of them are due to me and my big mouth getting me into situations. All very lighthearted, though. I never got into like serious trouble with the law, even though some of the stories are a little questionable from the legality point of view. If you read some of the stories, you'll know what I mean. So it's supposed to be a lighthearted stab at my life, the adventures I've gone into, the things I've learned by making the wrong decisions. It just, it's unapologetically me. It's a trek through my life, and I just want to share my experiences, and that the book was the culmination of all that.
How long did it take you to write it?
Yeah, it was about 2.5 years, start to finish. But I will say that was with hiatus here and there. So I took 3 months off here, 4 months off there. It didn't all get written in one go. I did have spurts, right? It came in waves. But definitely towards the end, once I crossed about the 80% threshold, that's when I really kind of hunkered down. I'd figured, look, let's just push it through the finish line, get it done. So 2.5 years altogether.
What inspired you to write your book?
Yeah, I like to think that I've lived a pretty eventful life. I've gone on my fair share of adventures and, like I said, misgivings and mishaps. And I like to think that my life has been pretty darn interesting. And I just when I share those stories with other people, I enjoy sharing the stories of the book amongst my circle of friends. And after I told the same stories, over and over and over, every so often someone would say, "Hey, you should write a book. Like, these are really good stories. You should write a book." Of course, people say that, but rarely anyone ever takes that seriously. And I figured, hey, why the hell should I not write a book? Um, and I think the moment it clicked for me when I realized this is actually coming together to be something is when I crossed the 100-page mark, right? So the book itself is about 160 pages. One of my biggest fears was I would write, put all these stories on paper, and then only come up with, say, 50 pages. That's not a book, that's a pamphlet, right? I didn't want to publish something that short. But like I said, once I crossed the 100-page threshold, then it became real, and it had to be finished.
So what's your favorite? Do you have a favorite story, or tell us one or two of your stories?
Sure,
They're
there
well practiced because you've told them over and over and over.
absolutely, right. There's a couple of them that I find that are very easy to tell and easy to digest. So when I moved to Las Vegas, I went to college at UNLV, and I decided to join a fraternity, right? Again, finding that belonging, finding that tribe. So I went to an event where there were a bunch of fraternity brothers. It was a shirt and, button-up shirt and tie event. So it was a bunch of us dudes. Some of them were brothers. Some of us were prospective, soon-to-be brothers, right? Join the fraternity. So I sit down at this table, and this guy sits down next to me, and he goes, "Hey, we did the initial name exchange, shake hands, all that good stuff." And he goes, "Hey, by the way, are you Russian?" And I thought that that question was very odd because he didn't know my heritage, but the only thing I could reply with, I said, "No, actually, I'm German." And he starts laughing. He starts busting up laughing. And he even, pokes his buddy and says, "Hey, man, this guy is funny. I asked him if he was Russian. He said he's German." And the other guy starts laughing too. And I had no idea why that was funny. So I sit there with a bewildered look on my face, and he goes, "No, no, no, seriously, are you Russian?" I said, "No, seriously, I'm German. I don't know why you're asking me that." And he goes, "Oh, I mean, this guy's got jokes. He's funny." And I had no idea why that was entertaining to him. And then I think he finally realized, after looking at me and my look of just complete confusion, he realized I had no idea what he was talking about. And he says, "Oh, no, okay, no, dude, are you rushing? Rushing?" And I said, "I don't know what that means." He goes, "Well, rushing is the process that you're doing right now to potentially join a fraternity. It's the rush. It's the rushing process." I go, "Oh, well, that makes a lot more sense. Yes, I am rushing. Yes, absolutely. I'm also German, but yes, I'm also rushing." Um,
Oh,
that's
that's
one of the lighthearted, silly ones. There's another one where like I said, I was stationed in Camp Pendleton in California, and one day I went to the PX. And for you listeners who don't know what that is, it's basically like a little grocery store. Think of like a 7-Eleven, a little bit bigger than that, but basically you can go there and get things, right? So I go down there one day and I buy some liquor, and the gal behind the counter asked me for ID. So I show her my Alaskan driver's license. And you don't see very many Alaskan driver's licenses in California, much less on base at a PX. So she looks at that and she goes, "Oh, Alaska. It must be pretty warm down there." Now, I'm going to pause for a second and have you noodle on that for just a minute, right? See if you can figure out what she meant. And I, paused as well and I said, "What do you mean down there?" And she goes, "Down there, it's got to be pretty warm, right?" And I go, "Where, what are you under the impression of where Alaska is?" And she goes, "Down there by Hawaii." And I go, "In what world is Alaska down by?" And then it clicked. When you watch the weather forecast, you have the 48 states, and then you have Hawaii down there, and then you have Alaska down there by Hawaii. I said, "Oh, no, 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 no. Alaska is way up north. It's right between Canada and Russia. We get negative 40 in the wintertime. It's definitely not down there. It's up there and it's very cold." And then this young lady then cocked her head to the side just a little bit and she goes, "Are you sure?" I'm like, Of course I'm sure. I lived there for 5 years. I have a driver's license from there. Of course I'm sure. Jesus." Yes. So so those are some of the more lighthearted stories, and one more I'll share real quickly. So the book is sectioned off into two parts. The first part is silly stories, two of them which you just heard, and the other part is a little more introspective, right? I share some opinions, some unpopular opinions. I go on rants. I have some introspection. There are some stories I share that I'm quite vulnerable because I went through some hardship in my life as well, and I share those fairly openly with the reader. And one of the things that one of the life lessons that I've learned is a real quick one, and I called it, the title is called Life is Like Blackjack. And if you ever play blackjack, the idea is that you're dealt a hand, and then you can choose to either get another card or you can hold on to the hand that you've been dealt. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much how blackjack is played. Now, however, some hands in blackjack are already lost by the time that the cards are dealt to you, whether you hit and get another card, or you stand and deal with or hold on to the cards you have. The dealer sometimes already has you beat, no matter what you choose. And I think there's a very valuable life lesson there. I think that there are certain situations in life that cannot be won. All you can do is take the hit and try again. So that's why I think life sometimes is like blackjack.
That's very good. And are you getting better at being out in Las Vegas?
Being better, playing blackjack, or what do you mean?
Playing blackjack.
I try not to gamble. I mean, it's there's a reason why these casinos look the way they do. Casinos are not built on winners, so I'll leave it at that.
No, that's right. The house always wins.
That's right.
Eventually. Very, very good. Very good. Do you have a particular instance where you were dealt a losing blackjack hand?
I mean, I've lost some friends over the years, right? I think we all have dealt with loss, and some have hit me harder than others. And there's no way to really wrap any kind of feel good around losing a close friend, right? So in those cases, it's just, look, you mourn for their loss. You wish they were here. It's just a matter of, look, life goes on. Life has to go on. You can choose to visit that person in your memory, but life has to go on. And I feel like when you're stuck in that mindset of, I lost someone, whether it be romantic love or a friend or an accident or whatever it is, the mantra that I've adopted is, if you want to stay in your head and revisit those times with those people, you can visit, but you can't stay. Staying in those memories is a very, very bad thing, in my opinion.
Very good. Very good. So true. Yeah, I can tell that there are some real gems in your book that you've written.
Thank you.
Now, did you explain how you came up with the title?
Again, I think it's just a culmination of my experiences. It's supposed to be a lighthearted stab at making mistakes, but learning from those mistakes. I didn't want to make it too serious. I want to make it. I think the title kind of embodies the
Well, it sets the
emotion.
tone. It
It
sets
sets
the
the tone.
tone.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you. It sets the tone of the book. So if you like just the title, and the subtitle is short stories about friendship, growth, and social misdemeanors, and that I think really, really sums it up nicely.
Yeah. And did you ever see active duty with the Marines?
I did not. So I was with a schools battalion. We did not deploy. And if you remember, between 2000 and 2004, 9/11 happened, and then we got mobilized to the Middle East for reasons. Like I said, our unit was not a deployable unit. We just had students come through, and our contribution to the war effort was that we pushed the students through quicker so that they can get deployed and do their thing. So on one hand, I feel like sometimes I missed out, right? That survivor's guilt. On the other hand, I'm glad that I'm in one piece physically, psychologically, and emotionally, because I have met, I've known friends that have gone overseas that have been deployed, and they've not come back in that one piece.
The
So
same
it's
way.
it's not, it's war is not a pretty thing. I joke about it in the book. I take, stabs at it and everything, and in my opinion, dark humor is some of the best humor to share. But again, when it comes down to it, war is not a pretty thing, and war is not funny, but it is what it is.
It is. It's a hand that you get dealt in blackjack.
That's right.
It is. This is all so good. And we're going to take a quick break and be back with Andy Dietrich after this brief message. See you in a minute. Hey there! Isn't my guest amazing? So glad you joined us today. In this world that often feels disconnected, building community and fostering belonging are essential. That's why I created this podcast, to bring inspiring people to you, to encourage you to create that sense of belonging and community, no matter where you are. If you're being blessed by my guest, and we have some more, like, subscribe, and share this podcast. You know who needs to hear this. Stay connected, stay true to yourself, and always remember, you belong. Now, back to our amazing guest. And we're back with my fabulous guest, Andy Dietrich, today. And if you've seen any of my podcasts, you know I have 3 favorite questions I ask on the second half. The first one is, Andy, what do you consider is your greatest accomplishment?
Yeah. So, I gave that a little bit of thought because it's easy to kind of just round down my resume and say, look, I've done this work, and I've worked at these jobs, and I've gotten these job titles and these promotions and made this much money. But I think my greatest accomplishment has been, let me take a step back. When I was in my late teens, early 20s, I was striking out in many areas of my life. I didn't have kind of like the understanding of how the world worked. I was very much a computer geek that, sat, in front of a screen more often than not. So I missed out on a lot of the socialization that happens when you grow up, right? There was a language barrier too in my adolescent years, being the new kid in high school, right? There was some good and bad that came with it. Um, and I was just not having the success that I thought I should be having when it came to friendships, relationships, work, right? Work relationships. I remember getting stood up for dates and just being left on red, as they say these days, or ghosted before that term was even a thing. And I was just so just kind of sick and tired of the world not being fair to me, because I thought it was the world being unfair to me. And I think a lot of young men kind of have that mentality, have that mindset, and there's a whole different discussion to be had, I think, some other time. But finally, I had this sit down moment with myself, and I thought, maybe it's me. Maybe it's me who is responsible for the things that are not happening in my life. And kind of at the same time, one of my old bosses, he was a definitely, I saw him quite a bit as a mentor, and he kind of took me under his wing. He didn't have any kids himself, so I think he saw like a son,
Mhm.
an idea of a son in me. So he took me under his wing and gave me some guidance professionally and personally. And through some of the things that he told me and taught me, I realized that there is, so your ability to socialize, your social skills is a skill that you can practice just like anything else. I thought that you're either born with it or you were not. I definitely was not, right? I would always sit there in shock and awe of those guys or girls who could just make conversations with anyone, or just strike up a friendship with literally anyone that they met on the street, or have a give a speech and not be and not be completely besides themselves. And again, I thought you were born with it or you weren't. I definitely wasn't. But then through many, 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 many years of just learning social skills, and there are plenty of resources out there that'll help you work on that. Um, I think that was probably my biggest investment, my biggest accomplishment. I am proud of who and what I've become. But I'm a far cry. I'm a the me of 20 years ago is a distant shadow of the person I am today, and it wouldn't have happened if it weren't for the fact that I've gotten smart with social skills, and I just hunkered down and I worked on them. It's like going to the gym. Don't expect to get results overnight, but just like a gym membership, if you keep at it, a little bit here, a little bit there, it starts adding up, and you start seeing results. And it takes some time. If you're socially inept, it takes time. but it is absolutely doable. It, again, is one of the biggest investments I would say I've done, and one of the biggest accomplishments that I'm proud of.
You have to be intentional about it. And, everybody talks about your IQ and how smart you are and what you can accomplish, but a bigger intelligence is your emotional intelligence and how you, and social skills are one of those. You got to have self awareness first, which
Yeah.
you did come to that point of self awareness to go, hey, wait, I need to learn something about this.
Yeah.
Then you learned your social skills. Then you need to be empathetic about other people. How are they responding, and be able to respond with that. But there's more on the emotional intelligence that needs to be learned. I wish they taught social skills, life skills in schools.
Yeah.
You just need to just proper etiquette. There don't there's it's not people don't know proper etiquette, and
Yeah.
now we have all these new pockets of needs for social etiquette, like cell phones. Don't talk on your cell phone in a restaurant.
Yeah. I I like to take a step further even. I think there are a lot of young men who feel discouraged, who feel angry at the world, who feel like that, the world, especially women, owe them something because, hey, I'm a nice guy. If I'm nice to her, she should repay me in kind. There's a lot of, psychology that goes into that. And I was definitely in that mindset as well. So I can sympathize with that. But I think to your point, I think you hit the nail on the head. I wish there was some sort of education where look, the world is what you make of it. You're not owed anything, and if you want to succeed in life, it's on you, and you just have to develop those skills. But you have no one to blame but yourself if you wake up one day and your life that you have lived is not what you expect it to be.
Exactly, because you make your life.
Yeah,
And who cares more about how your life goes than you do?
it's true.
I mean, you're the one.
That's right.
Wonderful. Now, second question. What makes you feel like you belong?
Yeah. I've had to pack my proverbial stuff, on many occasions in my life, right? From Germany to Alaska, Alaska to California, right? My whole rap sheet. So I had to relocate. I had to start fresh, many times. Um, and I think that it's not to, how about this? A little bit of ego is not a bad thing. A little bit of selfishness is not a bad thing. So I would say that you belong wherever you decide to be. Kind of like saying, kind of like saying, here I am. I am the center of my own universe. And if you'd like to orbit around me, that's great. If you don't, that's fine too. But wherever I go, I'm going to make sure that my needs are fulfilled. Um, and I think that with a good attitude, some social skills, and a don't give a crap, kind of don't care about the outcome attitude. Not to say you have to be, rude about it, but if you truly don't care about an outcome, it makes things a lot easier, right? If you strike up a conversation with a stranger and they ignore you because they have a bad day, that's fine. Like you move on, right? Life is like blackjack, right? You can't win every hand. But being detached to the outcome, being emotionally unattached to an outcome, I think takes a lot. It takes a lot of practice, but also takes a lot of pressure off of you when you're trying to do something new.
I have a, a practice that I do that I learned along the way. Um, don't write a story.
Hmm.
Uh, you see somebody in the grocery store from a distance and you wave at them and they just walk by and don't pay attention. Okay, you ask, what happened? They didn't wave back. Don't write a story. Oh, are they upset about what I said the other
Mhm.
day? And they're probably mad at me and they're ignoring me and trying to get away from me. What happened? They didn't see me.
Yeah.
And
I
don't write
Go
the
ahead.
story. And that's
I
kind of what you're saying. I'm going to live my life. And, if it's also been said, what other people think of me is none of my business.
I like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that.
Because you can't do anything about what they think anyway.
That's true.
I was
It,
just talking with someone the other day. She's reaching out often for counsel. She's got some friends that just have turned on her, and she's just so upset. Well, they think that I'm being, you can't do anything about their thoughts.
yeah,
You just have to leave it alone.
yeah,
So I really like that, because if we don't belong to ourselves first, then even if we think we're belonging somewhere, we're not, because it's our not authentic self that's showing up.
Yeah, I agree with
We're
that.
showing up with our avatar
Yeah.
and it's belonging.
Oh, hi. I got a guest joining for a minute. This
Oh,
is Karma.
hello there, guest.
Karma is, I kid you not, he must be a dog in cat's clothing. He's the coolest, chillest cat in the world. He'll wait for you at the door. He'll meow at you when it's time to go to bed. He'll follow you around. He is, like I said, a dog in cat's clothing. He's the best cat ever.
I love that. What's Hermit?
Karma. Karma, like the
Karma,
Buddhist karma.
like
Yeah.
good karma.
Like, well, I mean, sometimes he's not the best, but yes, overall good karma. He can
Or
be a little
not
turd
good karma.
sometimes. He can be a turd sometimes.
Yes. Okay, my third question. What is your favorite quote?
My favorite quote. You know, my mom has shared a lot of isms with me. I'm gonna pick maybe two of those. One
Okay.
is ultimately your problems are meaningless, but that doesn't make them any less real. That's one of them. Um,
Ooh, let's talk about that one.
sure,
If you can remember the second one.
sure.
But okay, what do you like about that?
I think it gives you the ability to take a step back from everything, right? I think your problems are. It kind of leads into the second quote. It says, paraphrasing, it says, the only pressure you feel is the pressure you put on yourself. I feel like throughout the day, throughout our lives, we take on so much, right? We take on all these responsibilities. We take on this idea that this has to get done, and I'm the only person who can do it. I have to take out the trash. I have to feed the cat. I have to pay the bills. I have to, all these things pile on. Of course, those need to be taken care of. But there is a lot of pressure we put on ourselves that doesn't need to be there. Sure, you have to take the trash out, but it doesn't have to be a pressurized situation. It's just hey, that's just a task you have to do. And kind of segueing back into the phrase earlier, right? Your problems are ultimately meaningless. Look, at the end of the day, let's fast forward 100 years. The things you deal with today are not going to matter. The
Or even
little
5 years. You don't have to go
even in 5 years, right? I
or
mean,
next
sure,
week.
sure, absolutely, right? Of course, the things you deal with today are your issues, but at the end of the day, it really is quite meaningless. I'm not just say that you should live a nihilistic lifestyle, but if you take a step back and realize, look, we all are going through this together, separately but together. We all deal with our fair share of problems and nonsense. Another analogy I like to bring up is when you drive on the freeway, it feels like it's you against all the other cars. Maybe not against, right? But it's you and all the other cars on the freeway. And they kind of lump together into this one big hive mind of a being, right? But that's not true. They're all individual cars and individual people probably thinking the exact same thing. It's not just you and a bunch of other cars. It's you and a ton of individuals that are just like you, having the exact same thoughts and the exact same realizations. Kind of like saying when you gone kind of off topic here for a bit, but giving a speech to 10 people is no different than giving a speech to 10 million people, right? It's all individuals. It's not just one big group of people that all come together and share one mind and one thought process. No, it's all individuals. You interact with people individually, not as a group.
Yes. That reminds me, our youngest daughter, single, is moving to Macedonia, North
Oh,
Macedonia.
oh, okay.
Yeah. And one of her talks she was giving to a group, she said, um, I have one goodbye, but each of you, I have to look at each individual that's telling me goodbye
Mm,
because you each are an individual and
mhm,
not the group I'm leaving.
right.
And that's kind of the same thing. You're
Yeah.
driving down the highway and everybody, I've thought of that sometimes. Ooh, we're all in our little bubbles, our little houses, our compartments, and we're all traveling. I wonder what their story is.
Yeah.
Ooh, I wonder, what are they on their way to?
Yeah.
I like to people watch. One thing I have tried to do, you use the terms, I have to take out the trash. I have to take out I have to, if you say, I get to,
Mm,
instead of I have to. I get to take out the trash because I have produced the trash because I have food to eat, so I have wrappers. I have I
yeah.
get to do this.
Yeah.
I get to pay bills because I have the money to pay the bills.
Yeah.
If you change that, and the other thing is, I should. Don't should on yourself.
I like that.
Yeah, don't should on yourself.
You brought up something about, instead of having to, you get to, right? It's almost like a privilege. You've made your life unfold in a way that this is something you get to do instead of that's something you have to do. There's something that I learned throughout my track when I was learning social skills. There was a chapter on empowerment, and if you're ever feeling completely out of power or disenfranchised or just out of control where you cannot seem to control a single thing in your life, there's a technique. It's called that I learned. It's called being breathed. So if you have no control about anything whatsoever and you feel like you're completely out of control, and you need to grasp on something that you can bring back into your zone of control. So it goes something like, don't just take a breath, allow the air by the action of your lungs to come into you, right? You're being breathed. You allow the air to come into you. You're not just letting it, you're allowing it. And that gives you back the tiniest bit, maybe not a whole lot, but the tiniest bit of control, which you then, if you're really down and out, out on your luck, I think just little things like that, little mental games you can play with yourself that, I don't know, just at the end of the day, just make it a little easier, right? Just a little bit easier.
Absolutely. That is really good. Your cells eavesdrop on your mind. So what you're thinking literally does impact how your body responds.
Interesting.
So telling yourself, I am going to let this air come in, is saying, I am in control. And you're thinking that, and your body will respond and help release some of the stress.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Well, before we close, do you have any parting words, or what do you want to say to our listeners?
Sure. I'd like to take the last few minutes and just kind of do a plug on the book that I've written. Again, it's Play Stupid Games, Win Stupid Prizes. And the easiest way to get to it, if you go on Amazon, you can either punch in my name. If you forget what my name is or how to spell it, if you go to andysbook.com, one word, andysbook.com, go there. There's a picture of me holding it up. There's a link to the Amazon page. However, if you would like to have a signed copy, I still have a few here that I'm happy to get rid of. If you go to andysbook.com/gift, punch in your information, I'll send you a signed copy on me. I'll be happy to.
That is awesome. I don't think, if you can remember Play Stupid Games, Win Stupid Prizes, I don't think there's another book with that title, so you should be able to find it in any Google search.
You're absolutely right. And actually, one of the reasons I picked that, one, because I love the phrase. Two, I searched of that phrase and see if anybody else snagged it up. Nope. The only thing I found was some stickers and some other, stationary items with that phrase on it, but nothing official. So I definitely lucked out on grabbing that one.
Yes, you did. I've never heard that expression. So I didn't realize it was out there somewhere on stickers, but good catch. You grabbed it. All right. Well, to our amazing guest, Andy, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. And to our listeners, belongers, stay connected, stay true to yourself, and always remember, you belong. This is Dea Irby with Here Where You Belong podcast, signing off. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Here Where You Belong. We hope today's episode has inspired you to embrace the beauty of belonging in your own life. Remember, no matter where you are or where you're headed, you have a place where you truly belong. Join us again next time for more insightful conversations and heartwarming stories. Until then, stay connected, stay true to yourself, and always remember that you belong.